Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all on this fourth day of our 11th annual conference. I am Ashish Chavan here. Basically, I'm a lecturer in mechanical engineering, a farmer, and I'm also working as a coordinator for one rural development project, Gram Vikas Tantra Niketan at Pipri Vardha. I welcome you all from this Karmabhumi of Mahatma Gandhi. I'm also working as executive committee member for STARS Forum. Most of you may know about STARS Forum, but there may be some viewers today who are new to STARS Forum. Basically, it was established around 12 years before, and very objective. STARS Forum stands for skill training for advancement of rural societies. So basically, it has worked as a networking platform for different organization, NGO, for different people who have who are working in specifically in skill development for livelihood management and for um, entrepreneurship development in rural area. So in Staff Forum, we run the program throughout the year, but every year in the month of December, there is an annual conference, and due to COVID-19, we are running this annual conference online. So here you can see the important aim of Staff Forum is to share the resources, to give inputs for policy making related to development in rural area, to generate a good platform so that people working in different part of India, they can collaborate with each other, they can know something is happening in Himachal Pradesh, and same thing can apply, or same thing can bring a good result in say Punjab or some in Tamil Nadu. So we try to bring the people together, and we try to make a collage of good activities going on. So as we have seen, we have started this 11th annual conference from Monday, and today is the fourth day. Now, when let's come to the today's topic. Today's topic is stories of bold rural transformations. Stories of bold rural transformations. We have three eminent speakers. They have done a very great work in their area. Today we have with us Mr. Mayank Gandhi. We have with us Mr. Vilas Shinde and Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi. So they have created a huge amount of work which can be a model for other organizations also. So initially we are starting with Mr. Mayank Gandhi. He is a very well-known personality. Most of us may know him. He had started his career as urban planner, international urban planner, and then he got attracted towards the movement of India against corruption. He was at the forefront of that movement, and after that he was involved with AAP also. He was a state chief for AAP party, and somehow he thought कि I'm not doing better thing for my own India or for my own people, and then he decided कि I will do a better or best job for my own country. And then he found कि what would be the best thing that I would do. So he selected the most drought prone area in Maharashtra, that is Marathwada. We all of us know that a couple of years before, a train containing water has to be sent to Marathwada for drinking water for people. They don't had any water, and we have to send a tanker train. So he accepted the challenge, and he started his work on water in 106 villages. And after that, he started with water. He brought the community together, and then he, after water, he also moved towards the horticulture things. And if I would instead of telling from my mouth, I would request Mr. Mayank Gandhi to please start this thing. Before that, one simple request is there to all the viewers, that if you have any question, you should write it in question and answer blog. Don't write anything in chat box. Write the questions in question and answer blog. And after the conversion from Mr. Mayank Gandhi, so we have kept 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes for question and answer. So if the viewer have any questions, they should write in question and answer box. Over to Mayank Gandhi, sir, please.
Namaste. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I am saying namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. मैंने ये जर्नी शुरू किया था राष्ट्र निर्माण करने के लिए, कोई एक एरिया को बेहतर करने के लिए या फल लगाने के लिए या पानी के लिए काम नहीं किया था। और मुझे लगा कि राष्ट्र को अगर बनाना है तो गांव में काम करना पड़ेगा, किसानों के साथ काम करना पड़ेगा, खेती के ऊपर काम करना पड़ेगा, और किसान को 1.5 लाख रुपया एकड़ की इनकम कम से कम करनी पड़ेगी। तो उस पाथ के ऊपर हमने पेड़ लगाए, पानी का काम किया, ये सब कुछ किया, लेकिन फाइनल गोल तो ये है कि हम राष्ट्र निर्माण कैसे करें, किसानों की इनकम 1.5 लाख रुपए एकड़ की कैसे करें, और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ये स्पीड से करें, स्केल से करें और फोकस से करें। तो ये सोच के हमने काम शुरू किया था। और ज्यादा बात न करते हुए, मेरे पास एक छोटी सी फिल्म है, तो मैं अपने कलीग को बोलूंगा कि वो फिल्म देख लें, उसके बाद कोई प्रश्न होंगे, कोई बातचीत होगी तो हम करेंगे। तो ज्यादा न बोलते हुए, प्रेम, आई रिक्वेस्ट यू, कैन यू प्लीज स्टार्ट द फिल्म?
यस सर।
नमस्ते। कुछ साल पहले मैं एक इंटरनेशनल अर्बन प्लानर था और डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज के लोगों की लाइफ देखता था, तो मुझे लगता था कि मेरे भारतवासी की जीवन ऐसा कब होगा। एक जिद कर ली कि मैं पूरी जिंदगी इसी की कोशिश करूंगा कि ये भारत कब बदले, राष्ट्र का निर्माण कब हो। और मैंने अन्ना जी के साथ राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन के ऊपर काम किया और कुछ कानूनों के ऊपर काम किया। और 2011 में अन्ना जी और अरविंद केजरीवाल के साथ मिलके इंडिया अगेंस्ट करप्शन मूवमेंट जो शुरू की, जो वर्ल्ड की वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट मूवमेंट थी, उसकी लीडरशिप में मैं था। फिर वो मूवमेंट जो थी वो एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बनी, आम आदमी पार्टी, जिसका मैं नेशनल एग्जीक्यूटिव मेंबर था। लेकिन जैसे मैं पॉलिटिक्स में घुसा और मैंने जो जो देखा, मुझे ये लगने लगा मेरे से राजकारण नहीं हो पाएगा, और मैंने 2015 में पॉलिटिक्स कंप्लीटली छोड़ दिया। लेकिन वो कीड़ा तो था कि मैं कैसे इस देश को बदलूं। गांधी जी कहते थे, इंडिया सोल लिव्स इन इट्स विलेजेस। अगर इंडिया को बदलना है तो गांव को बदलना पड़ेगा, और अगर मॉडल बनाना है देश को बदलने का, ऐसी जगह सिलेक्ट करें जहां सबसे ज्यादा तकलीफ हो। मराठवाड़ा में हाईएस्ट सुसाइड्स होते थे, और 2016 के अंदर तो कुछ ऐसे गांव थे जहां पे लोग पानी के लिए तरसते थे, सुसाइड्स हो रही थी, डिप्रेशन के अंदर लोग थे, 3,500 रुपया इनकम फैमिली की थी, और इसलिए जीते थे क्योंकि मरे नहीं थे।
Hello, welcome to Pali. Pali is a pilgrimage for us. It is where Mayank landed up and found people walking around with dead men's eyes. They had no water to drink and no one to care for them. But Mayank cared.
परली के अंदर मैंने पानी देना शुरू किया टैंकर। 56 गांव के अंदर 60,000 लोगों को 1.5 करोड़ लीटर हमने पानी दिया। मैंने इसके पहले लगान पिक्चर छोड़ के कोई गांव नहीं देखा था। मुझे मराठी नहीं आती थी और मैं गांव में घूमने लगा और वहां के लोगों की हालत देख के बहुत दुख होता था। क्या कर सकता हूं मैं, कैसे इस एरिया को बदल सकता हूं और ये मॉडल को लेके देश बदल सकता हूं, इसके ऊपर विचार करने लगा और मैंने डिसीजन ले लिया। मैंने सोचा पूरा जीवन सेवा में ही गुजारूंगा और मैंने जहां नौकरी थी वो छोड़ दी और मेरे पास एक फ्लैट मैंने बुक किया था वो बेच दिया और गांव में मैंने काम करना शुरू कर दिया। लेकिन एक चीज मैंने तुरंत मुझे समझ में आ गई कि जो गांव है ये एक मल्टीपल ऑर्गन फेलियर जैसा है। हार्ट के ऊपर आप काम करोगे लीवर खींच लेगा, लीवर पे काम करोगे लंग खींच लेगा। तो अगर आपको गांव बदलना है तो आपको 360 डिग्री हर एक एस्पेक्ट पे काम करना पड़ेगा। हमने पानी के ऊपर काम किया, हमने इनकम जनरेशन के ऊपर काम किया, एजुकेशन के ऊपर खूब काम किया, स्वास्थ्य के ऊपर हेल्थ केयर के ऊपर काम किया, फिर स्किल डेवलपमेंट के ऊपर किया, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग के ऊपर किया। गांव वालों को तैयार करने के लिए जो डिप्रेशन में था, जिसकी आंख के अंदर अग्नि नहीं थी, सोललेस आइज बोलते थे, जिसके युवाओं ने कभी दूध नहीं चखा था, उन सब के लड़ने को तैयार कर दिया, एक आर्मी जैसा बना दिया।
The biggest thing was that a social transformation took place, and small villages can be incredibly competitive. If you have one political party, there are probably 3 factions of that party in that village. He said that look, if you talk about politics in this village, I'm not going to enter the village. So he was very, very intelligent. He completely stayed away from politics. He speaks nothing but development, development and development.
वहां पे दारू का बहुत ज्यादा चलन है और रेवली गांव करके था, उसके अंदर 7 युवा सिरोसिस ऑफ लीवर से मर गए थे। रात को रोड के ऊपर सब दारू पी के सोते थे, लेडीज ने पीना शुरू कर दिया था, बच्चों ने पीना शुरू कर दिया था। और फिर हमने तय किया कि एक आंदोलन करते हैं और वहां की लेडीज, बच्चे, युवा सब आगे रात को मशाल लेके घूमने लगे, दारू बंदी झाली छपाइए और दारू की दुकान पे रेड मारने लगे। और इस तरह हमने 15 गांव में दारू कंप्लीटली बंद कर दिया।
खुशी हो या गम हो, मुझे खाली शराब ही दिखती थी, शराब के अलावा मुझे दिखता ही नहीं था। मगर जब से मयांक गांधी हमारे गांव में आया और उन्होंने शराब बंद की और मुझे एक खाली मूल मंत्र दिया, बोतल पे बोतल पिए जाओ, आधी रात उतरती है, मगर एक बार खाली समाज सेवा का प्याला पियो, जिंदगी भर चढ़ती है। और खाली यही मूल मंत्र ने मेरी जिंदगी बदली।
मूवमेंट शुरू हो गया और लोग जुड़ने लगे। तो 2017 में ये सोचा कि अगर मैं अपनी जीवन में इस तरह काम करूंगा गांव बदलने का, तो 25, 50, 100, 200 गांव बदल पाऊंगा। और भारत में 6.5 लाख गांव है। तो फोकस करके हमने ये सोचा कि अभी पानी के ऊपर काम करते हैं। जैसे शरीर के अंदर 70% मात्रा पानी की रहती है, वहां के प्रॉब्लम भी 70% पानी से जुड़े हुए थे। और लोगों को इकट्ठा किया। मुझे याद है 45 डिग्री की धूप 2018 में, और सारे गांव वाले साथ में मिलके काम करते थे। ऐसे करते करते हमने 222 करोड़ लीटर पानी इकट्ठा किया, 70 किलोमीटर नदी बनाई, 162 तालाब बनाए, 62 डैम्स बनाए, और पूरा गांव का गांव उमट पड़ता था श्रमदान करने के लिए।
गांव में पहले झगड़े वगैरह बहुत होते थे। जैसे ही ग्लोबल पर्ली के साथ हमारे गांव के युवक जुड़े, अभी गांव में विकास कार्य बहुत प्रगति पे है और साथ में हम लोगों की जो एकता है उसे भी अभी कोई तोड़ नहीं सकता।
श्रमदान नहीं करते थे। गांव वाले ने 13,55,000 रुपया भी इकट्ठा किया। तो इस तरह से पानी के ऊपर खूब काम किया और पानी आ गया तो पूरा गांव, पूरा एरिया नव चेतना आ गई। इतना सुंदर पूरा एरिया होने लगा।
हमारे गांव में जो ग्लोबल वर्ली की टीम ने जो वाटरशेड डेवलपमेंट का काम किया है, उसकी बदौलत हमारे गांव में अब बहुत पानी है। पहले हमारे गांव का जो पानी था वो 400 से 500 फीट तक था। अभी वो काम होने के बाद हमारे गांव का पानी का लेवल 50 से 70 फीट तक आ गया है। उसकी बदौलत हम लोग अब अच्छी फसल उगा सकते हैं।
और लोगों के अंदर नई चेतना आई, उनको लगा कि हम भी जीवन में कुछ कर सकते हैं। या उस समय की जीत थी हमारी कि सिर्फ जमीन के ऊपर बदलाव नहीं लाए, हम मानसिक तरीके से इनको हमने जिंदा कर दिया। और जो युवा जो किसानी छोड़ के शहर में जाते थे, वो शहर में जाना उनका बंद हो गया। तो ये बहुत बड़ा बदलाव हो गया। ये वाटर मैनेजमेंट करने के बाद इनकम कैसे बढ़ानी है, ये नेक्स्ट चैलेंज था हमारे लिए। और हमने ये प्लान किया कि जो किसान कॉटन और सोया लगाता है, जहाँ पे उसको 10 से 20 हजार रुपया पर एकड़ की सालाना इनकम होती है, अगर उसका क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न चेंज करते हैं, अगर हम फल के पेड़ लगवाते हैं, तो उनकी इनकम बहुत ज्यादा हो सकती है।
A lot of work, and it was something it needs to be done in every part of India, because एक तो ऐसे ट्रीज लगाने से जो एक सबसे भयंकर जो डर है, which is looming on our heads about environment, about global warming. So मैं गांधी जी का एक सीधा साधा फंडा है कि भैया झाड़ लगाओ, that is the only solution.
और फिर किसान को हमने बहुत अच्छे पौधे दिए और जबरदस्त ट्रेनिंग दिया। रेगुलर ट्रेनिंग एवरी 15 डेज हम लोग देते थे। कुछ तो ऐसे पेड़ हैं जो 2-2.5 साल के बाद फल देंगे, लेकिन पपाया और ड्रमस्टिक ऐसा था कि जिसने 8 महीना 7 महीने के अंदर प्रोडक्शन दे दिया और मार्केट वहां पे आ गया, क्योंकि क्लस्टर के अंदर बहुत बड़ी क्वांटिटी में बनता था। अब जो 10 से 20 हजार कमाते थे, वो 3 लाख के ऊपर कमाने लगे।
यहाँ हमारा जो दुष्काल परिस्थिति में हमारा एरिया पहचाना जाता है, और यहाँ बारिश भी कम होता है, और इधर पूरा कर्ज बाजारी खेती पूरा चलता था। और मैं वो सोयाबीन, कपास, बाजरी, हाइब्रिड ऐसा पिक लेने वाला किसान था। उसके बाद इसका सेवगे का जो उत्पन्न चालू हो गया, तो ऐसा हम सपने में भी नहीं सोचते कि खेती में इतना पैसा निकलता है करके। पहले हम तो वो पैसा देख के हमारा विश्वास भी नहीं होता था कि 1 एकड़ में इतना पैसा खेती किसान को मिलता है। बाद में जब चालू हो गया तो एक झाड़ को 10-15 किलो माल निकलने लगा। अच्छा से पैसा मिल गया। अपना वो कपास निकाल के फेंक देना पड़ता है, वैसा ये सेवगा का नहीं, 7-8 साल चलता है वो, अच्छा संभालेगा तो। फिर आप पहला क्या पतरे का घर, अभी घर भी बनाऊंगा वही पैसे से, अच्छा से गाड़ी बीड़ी लेगा बैठने को।
एक पपीता का पेड़ कम से कम 50 से ज्यादा 80 किलो तक ये माल देता है। और 1 एकड़ में ये अपन 900 पेड़ लगा सकते हैं। 900 पेड़ है यानी कि लगभग 40 से 50 टन। पहले सोया की खेती करते थे तो 20 या 25 हजार आते थे। ये पपई की खेती करने लगे तो हमारे हाथ में 10 या 15 गुना ज्यादा 3 से 4 लाख रुपए प्रति एकड़ खर्च जाते हुए हमारे हाथ में रह गए। इधर जो मल्चिंग दिख रही है, इसमें हमने वाटरमेलन का लिया था। वाटरमेलन का एक एकड़ में खर्चा जाते हुए हमको कम से कम 1.25 लाख रुपए रह गए।
मैं एक गरीब किसान था और आत्महत्या करने को निकला था, और ग्लोबल परली आई। ग्लोबल परली ने सीताफल लगाने का मार्गदर्शन किया और उन्होंने अच्छे पेड़ लाके मुझे दिए सीताफल के। और मार्केट में जो सीताफल 20 रुपये 30 रुपये किलो जाता था, वो सीताफल आज 120-130 रुपये से जा रहा है। मैं 1 एकड़ में 3 से 5 लाख रुपए कमा सकता हूँ, ऐसी मेरी आशा है और मैं खुश हूँ।
तो खूब इनकम मल्टीप्लाई हो गई। ये रिजल्ट देख के आजू बाजू के एरियाज के किसान हमारे पास आए कि हम भी लगाना चाहते हैं। तो इस साल 2020 में कोरोना का चैलेंज होने के बावजूद हम लोग ने 20 लाख से ज्यादा फल के पेड़ लगाए। So once we had a success in the proof of concept that we are attempting in the worst area of the country, so the next step was to replicate and to scale it up, because remember, We were trying to change India and not just the lives of the people of Parli or of Marathwada. And which is why we started scaling up, replicating, because new models would then be made. Different areas would have different necessities, different needs based on the soil and weather and water. So we started working in Madhya Pradesh. This year we intend to work in Gujarat and in Palghar, which is near Mumbai. We also are intending to work with local leadership in different parts of the country who want to come and do similar things. So we'll give them a standard operating procedure, we will guide them, we will mentor them. But that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, how do we institutionalize the whole model? If we were to institutionalize, if the government takes ownership of this model, then this country can change. So I've been speaking at various levels of government, central, state, local, and I think there seems to be an interest in the whole thing. Let me give you some figures. Today, India's fruit plantation is in 4.21% of India's arable land. China has 13.95% of its land under fruit plantation. Now suppose we were able to increase, due to support of government and individuals and public-private partnership, to 11%. It would actually mean that 3.23 lakh crore rupees revenue will increase for the farmer, which essentially means 13.92% of the agri GDP. This is massive. So what we are attempting in a proof of concept goes into replication and then goes into the government policy and able to change the rural landscape of this country.
This can lead to the complete transformation of the Indian economy and also set an example for taking it global to the rest of the developing world.
This country, this democracy of India has seen many transformations, many changes, but most of them have been due to movements, whether it's the Gandhi movement for before independence, or it's the movement against the emergency, the Mandir, the Mandal, or the latest Anna movement. Movements have succeeded. They have been able to change the hegemony. The people who have been controlling have been changed. These are movements which know how to break the building but do not know how to construct a new one. I believe that if we want to change this country, we also need to have a movement, but not a confrontational, not a destructive movement, but a constructive, positive, pro-development movement, which is what we have begun in Parli and Marathwada. And I think this movement, if all of us come together. Now Lions Club, one of the Okay, I think gives the gist of what we are doing. Prem, you can switch off the video.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all of you for watching the video. And if there are any question answers or there is anything that you would like me to say more, I will be very happy to do so.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I am audible to you?
Clearly.
Yeah. One important question is there. How to encourage youth to take up agriculture as an occupation?
मैं हिंदी में बोलूं चलेगा?
हाँ सर, बिल्कुल हिंदी में भी चलेगा।
थोड़ा कंफर्ट सबके लिए हो जाता है।
हाँ सर, हाँ सर।
जब मैं गया ना गांव में, तब मैं देख रहा था कि युवाओं को कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं था फार्मिंग में, और ये पूरे देश भर में था। तो मुझे लगा 20 साल के बाद इस देश का क्या होगा अगर युवा इंटरेस्ट नहीं लेते हैं। युवा वहां पे बैठते थे, वो चूना मसाला खाते थे, लेकिन उनको खेती करने में ज्यादा दिलचस्पी नहीं थी, और उसके बहुत सारे कारण है, लेकिन बड़ा कारण ये है कि फार्मिंग वायबल नहीं है। आप 10,000 15,000 रुपये एकड़ के लिए अगर पूरा साल काम करते हो, तो कौन से युवा को अच्छा लगेगा, कौन सा युवा बड़े एंथुजियाज्म से करें। तो अगर युवाओं को अट्रैक्ट करना है तो सबसे पहले उनका इनकम बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, उसकी इकोनॉमी इंप्रूव करनी पड़ेगी। और इसलिए हमने वैसा किया कि जो 10-15 हजार रुपया एकड़ में जो कमाता था, वो काफी ज्यादा कमाने लगा, लाख रुपये, 1.5 लाख, 2 लाख, 3 लाख कमाने लगा। तो युवा अभी हमारे एरिया में पूरे लग गए हैं फार्मिंग में। सो बेसिकली उसको इंसेंटिवाइज करना पड़ेगा कि आप अगर खेती करते हो, उसके अंदर तुम्हारी इतनी इनकम होती है, तो कौन
युवा गांव से इतनी गंदगी में मुंबई जैसे शहर में जाएगा, गटर में वो स्लम्स में रहेगा, कोई नहीं चाहता है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली मजबूरी ऐसी है कि उनको गांव में रहना पड़ता है और उसको 10-15 हजार के लिए काम करने का कोई इंसेंटिव नहीं है। तो दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम का सॉल्यूशन ये जड़ है कि आप इंक्रीज कीजिए इनकम, तो सब गांव में रहेंगे और काम करेंगे अपने लिए।
Okay, sir. Sir, some of the viewers are international viewers also. So I humbly request you to please give further answer in English if possible. Sir,
No issue.
sir, one question was there from G. Bal Subramanya. What are your thoughts on the farmers' bills right now?
See, I don't know whether you will agree with this, but I'm going to make myself very clear. I think the farmer bill is one of the most well thought out legislative piece. Unfortunately, there is a section of farmers in the northern belt, mostly wheat and rice farmers who sell through MSP, who feel that they will be disadvantaged by this bill. And also the government of Punjab, for example, gets 5,000 crores as revenue from selling it through the mandis. So they have some concerns. And I think the government is discussing with them, addressing their concerns. Quite a few of their concerns have already been, government has made the right noises that they are happy to discuss and solve it. But an extremely unreasonable stand has been taken that this has to be withdrawn. And it will be a major disservice to the country and to the farmer and to the agri sector if this is withdrawn. I would, if I have to give an analogy or a comparative, the farm bill is very parallel to the 1991 liberalization and opening of the economy. At that time, I remember that there were protests and there were 7 Bharat Bandhs, and everyone had this fear that there will be people coming from outside the country or major industrialists who will take away all the industries and leave the poor. But we see in hindsight that liberalization has been great for unshackling the economy and improving the lives of the people of this country. Many people have come out of poverty after 91 due to these policies. And I see a parallel here that if we allow the farm bill, it is going to be the liberalization and opening up of the economy and of new opportunities. There are people who are full of fears and insecurities, and I am sure they are misdirecting people that this is going to destroy the country or whatever, Ambani, Adani. What Ambani, Adani, are they giving some contract? It's the same open field for Ambani, Adani as for anyone else. So industrialists will come in the farm sector. Don't you want it? Don't you want people to come and invest more? Don't you want them to give better prices, better infrastructure? What is this entire fear? I cannot understand very logically what's this whole thing about. If you saw the same kind of a model took place for milk and for everything, and today milk production is increasing by 9%, 10%. Small farmers who have 5 cows are also earning much more than they were earning. So this entire fear mongering is taking place. And somehow the anti-government forces are also come together with these few farmers. And I also feel that in a democracy, one of the major problem is that there are some very loud vocal naysayers who keep on saying, nahi, nahi, nahi. And there are the silent majority who do not speak anything. And then the naysayers prevail. That is a tragedy of our democracy. But I think the government should be firm. They must talk to the farmers. They must listen to their reasonable demands. But unreasonable demands or dangerous demands like withdrawing this fantastic farm bill is going to be damage to the country.
Okay, sir. There are so many messages or questions, we can say, so many messages are there who wish to connect with you, who wish to contribute the work you are doing. So there is a question ki how they can contribute or how they can work with you, or if the same model has to be done somewhere else. So how they should be connected with you.
So our website is www.globalparley.org. So you can definitely go there and do. My phone number you can share in this group. Prem, if you are there, please share all our contacts on the chat group so that they can read it. The other thing is, this year we are planning to expand or to scale up, to replicate. And while we have a limited bandwidth that we are going to increase our activity in Marathwada, Madhya Pradesh, Palghar, and probably Gujarat, we are looking for organizations, we are local leadership which want to participate and do similar models. We'll be very happy to create and we already have a standard operating procedure, guidelines, and we will do technical support. We will definitely handle them so that they can do. It's not as easy as it looks, but there are ways to overcome that, and together we can do so. So anybody who's interested, most welcome to please connect with us.
Here also in Star Forum, so many organizations are there who are working on livelihood improvement, and I think there may be a good collaboration things we can start.
We welcome them.
Another question is there, how much important it is to conduct regular capacity building for farmers?
No, the farmers, we realize this very quickly that there are three things that need to be done for the farmers. And those three things are training, training, and training. It is very necessary to marry the traditional farming technologies and techniques with modern farming, modern technology. We use a lot of IoTs, cloud computing. There's so much things that we have done some of it. We are doing more of it. We are creating our own app. So technology has to come in. People have to be trained all the time. They have to be shown other farmers, other success stories. They have to be shared. They have to be taken there. There are multiple ways that because for a farmer, seeing is believing. And we really, just on the 5th and 6th of this month, we had over 200 people coming from all parts of the country to see what we have done in Parli and interact with the farmers there. So in a way, we'll need to work a lot on creating capacities to bring in people, and we are ready, gearing up to do more.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for your kind contribution to this conference, and we will be always with contact with you. Thank you once again. And
thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate.
Yeah, and if the some questions are not addressed yet, but we shall try to address it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, here, as I said earlier in my very first introduction, we have 3 panelists, and all the 3 had done very great job in their area. As Mayank Gandhi said, he wished to do the work with focus, speed, and at very large scale. So here, with the same principles, here we have with us today Sri Vilasji Shinde. We welcome you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, if someone say about farmer producer company, the first name come in everyone's mind is Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company, and it was started with very small, with only 9 to 10 farmers, and Mr. Vilas Shinde had only 2 acres of land, and he started the company with only 10 farmers. Right now, he has connected around 7,000 farmers, and the company is taking care of 15,000 acres of land. And he has not stopped at this 7,000 farmers. His goal is he want to get connected with 25,000 small farmers. Again, I repeat here, small farmers. The company is the Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company is working very hard for small and marginal farmers. So he wished to do work for small and marginal farmers. He wished to do for connect 25,000 farmers and 50,000 acres of land on which the company wished to do work. He has he has given consultancy. He is mentoring to so many farmer producer companies. He is there on some government policy making boards also, and he started his journey with very small things, but now he is doing the business. He or his company is doing the business all over the globe. And I had gone so many times through his presentations. I used to read his article in AgroOne. It comes, I think, every Wednesday or something. So he tell us about the various opportunities in various crops. So being a farmer, he is my role model basically. And here the vision of Sahyadri Farm Producer Company is and Mr. Vilas Shinde is really great, and they are working day by day on it. So welcome, sir. I again welcome you, and I hand over to you, to Mr. Vilas.
Thank you, Ashish ji. Good evening to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Ashish ji, and all his colleagues to bring us on this forum to share our journey and also our thoughts on overall rural development and agriculture development happening in Nasik and around surround area. Ashish ji, I am going to share the presentation.
Okay.
Is it visible?
Yeah. You can make it full screen if possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. As you said rightly, Sahyadri has started as a farmer producer company with the clear understanding that we have to create our own ecosystem, which should be owned by the farmer, and we should work 100% for the farmer community's development with the complete understanding of the ecosystem challenges. So as a background, we know what is the agriculture economy situation in our country. The complete economy is devastated because of the so many reasons, from some basic reasons like small land holding, then some resources related issues that some areas in Maharashtra is having the irrigation related issues. Low productivity is a very common issue throughout the country. Then few challenges like negligence towards the quality and increased cost of production, which has become the main issue in last 30 years after the globalization, also after adoption of the green revolution practices. So, and then I don't require to speak about the government policies, how it is actually creating the issues. And then other challenges like natural calamities due to the global warming, then the poor post-service management issues, lack of basic infrastructure, specifically on the post-service side, then the failed agriculture marketing system, which is actually from a few days, we are continuously discussing a lot of debates is happening in the country. Then there is no connection between the farmer and the processing industry, and the overall approach towards the agriculture of young generation. So we know all these issues, and overall unrespectable business of agriculture. I think this is a common story in every part of the country. So when we think on the individual farmers level, so these are the common picture throughout the country, whether it is a farmer from the irrigated area or from the rainfed area. But most of the farmers, almost 90% farmers, they are coming in small and marginal farmers category. And though they have the wish to improve their scale, but that is not possible. So basically scale is a major issue. Then as a farmer, he is not in position to take the risk. He cannot compete in the market. He cannot be informed. He cannot wait, and he cannot sustain in current ecosystem, and overall he cannot negotiate. This is the story of Indian farmer, and that is the reason he got exploited in many situations, and because of that he's continuously making losses, and that's why the deprived situation of Indian farmer is a common story throughout the country. Another side, if you see the complete agriculture supply chain from farmer to the consumer, there are so many middlemen, there are so many different stakeholders who are actually controlling the complete supply chain. And that's why the farmer and consumer, both sides, there are so many issues. And as we know that the main exploitation is happening on the farmer side because of these multiple layers in the agriculture supply chain. So what is the solution to these overall challenges? I think how we can improve the farmers' negotiation power. That is the only solution. Whether you make any law, whether we are working in the traditional system or whether we'll adopt the new laws. But the negotiation of negotiation power of the farmer, I think that is the key to make the farming successful. And that is possible only through the collectivization of the farmer in any form, whether it is a farmer cooperative model, or whether it is a farmer producer company concept, or a self-help group, or any other format. But the farmer collective, I think that is a key to most of the challenges or most of the problems. So with this thought, we created Sahyadri Farmers Producer Company in 2011 with the clear understanding that we want to make farming profitable, and that in any situation, in any circumstances, we need to make it profitable, and through that we can find the solutions to all the problems of small and marginal farmers. Along with the farmer side, we also need to understand the consumer side, because farmer and consumer both are the part of the main key part of the value chain, and if we are creating the value at both all these stakeholders level, then only that chain can become sustainable. And as a consumer, whatever is expectation on the safety, then the product's quality, and then the healthiness of the product and the affordability, that also we need to understand while creating the complete value chain. So Sahyadri focus on the complete value chain aspect from the farmer side and also on the consumer side, along with the other stakeholders, especially the environmental issues and any other stakeholder, whether they are working in any domain on the finance side or on the technology side, any supportive role to the ecosystem. So we need to consider all the stakeholders, their interest. Now we can create the value chain with the prosperity for all the stakeholders. Through that, Sahyadri started focusing on the different challenges of the agriculture ecosystem. So we clearly understand that now we need to consider agriculture purely as an industry. Every farmer we need to consider as an entrepreneur, and every farm should be treated as an independent enterprise. And with this thought, if we start focusing on different challenges on productivity side, market side, and cost of production side, I think definitely we'll get the solutions. So with considering the different challenges on these different level issues, Sahyadri took this end-to-end solution approach, where the small farmer will be connected to the global consumer with the seed-to-plate approach. And with this mind, then we started creating the different interventions at farm level, at value addition level, and also at sales marketing level. So with this approach, we are now focusing how we can make our production activity efficient, also post-service activity efficient, and marketing activity also efficient. Through that, then we can create the additional value for the farmer. So we are focusing on all the challenges like efficient resource management, then how we can improve our quality and productivity as per global standard. Then for that required quality inputs, testing facilities, then the efficient finance, crop insurance, everything is focused with the equal mindset. And then on the post-service side, how we can reduce the losses after production. For that need-based infrastructure, then need-based research and development activity, and the marketing with the global approach. How we can consider all 750 crore global population as our market, and for that the intensive market networking. On that line, Sahyadri focusing last 10 years then also direct to consumer approach, need-based processing. All these aspects we focus from the beginning, and for that the required structures which we created now is you can see in the picture. Sahyadri is now owned by 726 individual shareholders, and on the other farmer producer companies which has created with the Sahyadri's own initiative, and also other farmer producer company. So now Sahyadri is having 10,550 farmers as a part of the ecosystem with the shareholding in main company and also in associate company. And now we are focusing to connect more than 50,000 farmers in 1 lakh area only in the horticulture sector in next 3 years. So like Amul, we try to create a 3-tier system where farmer to consumer, there are 3 layers as crop-wise farmer producer company, which is focusing on the production related challenges. Then the main company, which is taking care of all the core activities at the post-harvest side, also marketing in B2B form for export and domestic market, and also supporting all the farmer producer company who are focusing on different crops. And above that, then the third layer for the B2B and B2C marketing in domestic market. And both these two companies, B2B company and B2C company, are owned by the parent producer company. So overall management and also the overall control on the value chain is in the 100% in the farmer's hand. In horticulture sector, as you know that as per the supply demand, you will always find the prices are continuously fluctuating. Like in just as an example, onion in June, onion prices were at 10 rupees, and in October it went up to 70-80 rupees. So that type of situation is happening in horticulture sector throughout the year. So how we can make farming, horticulture farming efficient and also sustainable? For that, Sahyadri focus on all the different aspects with the integrated approach. So instead of focusing on one market or instead of having only on one channel, we try to create different channels for getting the maximum realization, also getting the minimum support price in case of the glut situation through processing, and also maximum realization through export and direct consumer approaching domestic market. And also along with that, efficient post-service and efficient farm management. So all together then we are now in position to manage all our internal challenges in all the situation, whether it is a glut situation or any quality related situation. Because of this integrated approach, Sahyadri is continuously growing. In last 8 years, we went up from 15 crore to 65 crores business, and this business is continuously growing by around 20 to 30% scale. Sahyadri tried to create our own net worth. Almost 55 crores paid up capital we created through the business in last 7-8 years. Also additional reserves of 63 crores. So the strong net worth is created through the business itself with the farmers' contribution only. And all this net worth is again invested in the creating the need-based infrastructure for the farm management or for the post-service and marketing related different assets. So basically, most of the people know that Sahyadri is known for the grape value chain. All this initiative started from the grapes. So I would like to put some more light on the grape value chain. So all this initiative started in the beginning at my own farm in 2004 as with the small 10 farmers group, and with 4 containers export to the European market. And that value chain which we tried to build in first 5 to 6 years period, that then converted into Sahyadri Farmers Producer Company's model. And because of this integrated approach and because of the understanding the overall ecosystem challenges, Sahyadri then become the largest grape exporter from 2015. Last 5 years, we are now leading the grape export industry. Almost 1245 farmers and around 5,500 acre area is a part of the grape value chain. More than 17% sharing grape export business, particularly for the Europe, is with Sahyadri. For this, Sahyadri focus on different digital solutions along with the Apeda's GrapeNet traceability system. we try to create our own ecosystem with the 100% traceability. And for that, we invested in technology for creating our own digitalized solutions. Now almost all our farmers and all their plots are 100% digitalized. All the farms are completely traceable with all the data at production level and at basic level. Everything is visible to the consumer. And then complete activities from production to the post service and retailing. All these activities are 100% visible to the consumer. 100% all the activities are capturing the system. Along with this consumer face traceability system, we try to create one point solution for all the farmers their day-to-day decisions with the proper integration of different hardwares, weather stations or satellite information, and proper dissemination of the data coming from different sources. Now we are in position to give day-to-day advice to the farmer for their all the challenges, farm management challenges, whether it is irrigation management or pest disease management. Along with that, all the farmers, they are getting the continuous support from the best agronomists of all the grape growing countries in the world. So regular interaction is happening with all these best agronomists with all our farmers. Regular exposure visits are conducted in different part of the world. Sahyadri has also focused on different basic challenges, specifically on the variety side. We try to bring best varieties from the different part of the world. Sahyadri is now having the 18 patentable varieties rights for Indian markets from the two breeders. One is from the California and one is from the Spain. So under that, we brought all these varieties in white, red, and black seedless grapes, which are now changing the complete grape industry scenario. With all the introduction of these varieties, now we are expecting that we are now in position to increase our overall grape business and also the overall Indian grape industry's business almost by double numbers in coming 10 years period. I will not go in detail because of the time constraint. So R&D farm which we have created in State Farming Corporation's land is almost situated in on 100 acres campus. So all these challenges which handle in the grape value chain, and through that whatever the ecosystem, strong ecosystem which we created in grapes, now we are trying to replicate the same story in other horticulture crops since the last 3 years. We are now focusing on all the Maharashtra's major horticulture crops like bananas, mangoes, pomegranate, guava, then in vegetable, tomato, onion, and other vegetables. So based considering all this overall need of our organization, we try to create one centralized campus at Mohadi, which is situated on 95 acres area, where we have created the infrastructure needed for the different challenges, from the basic input related solutions for the farmer, then all the post service infrastructure for handling the fruit and vegetable in fresh form, in semi-processed form, and also in valuated form. The overall infrastructure is handling 800 ton per day fruit and vegetable, which is parallel to any APMC in surrounding area. Few infrastructures which is now ongoing, that includes some testing facilities, then there's some waste management facilities. So we are now expecting to complete this campus in this coming financial year. These are the few pictures of the campus and also the activities happening in the campus. Sahyadri focus on the food safety challenges from the beginning itself. As we started our journey with the European market, we have clear understanding at farmer level and also at the organization level that how the food safety factor is importance in overall ecosystem. All our farms are 100% GlobalGAP certified with the GlobalGAP certification. Also, every produce which Sahyadri is offering to the global consumer is 100% residue free and with the food safety standards. Sahyadri is certified with more than 22 certifications in the food safety area from GlobalGAP standard, then USFDA, kosher, halal, then BRC standard, along with some ethical trade standards like fair trade and also Rainforest Alliance. because of the overall standards which Sahyadri has created in last 10 years, we have now connected with all the major players in fruit and vegetable industry, whether it is a European retailer or some Gulf retailers or some major processing companies. Everywhere Sahyadri is now connected with the proper integrated model. Almost 42 countries now we are supplying all our fresh products, IQ products, FMCG products. Also in the domestic market, Sahyadri is having the clear vision that we want to supply the same quality standard product to the domestic customer, and through that now the domestic supply chain is also continuously increasing. Hindustan Unilever, which is the main player in tomato processed product and also in the fruit processed product with the Kisan brand, they are now manufacturing all their products in Sahyadri. From last 2 years, we are connected for manufacturing of all the Kisan branded products. In the beginning, Sahyadri focused on export market for the fresh produce, but from the last 3 years, now we understand that along with the export market, we need to focus on the domestic market also, and that this challenge that as a farmer, there are so multiple challenges, multiple opportunities in domestic market that we can capture if we have the proper domestic supply chain. So last 2 years now we are focusing on creating the proper domestic distribution model in different cities of India. For that, Sahyadri took initiative to create our own retail. Basically, this is a small activity, but what we understand now in country like organized farming structure, organized retail is also overall lead of the country, and on that line, lot of initiatives are happening from the corporate sector or some of the from multinationals. Why not we think on the farmers' own retail? It is I think definitely is a big ambition, but I think that will be a long-term solution for the farmer community. With this thought, Sahyadri started opening our own stores, and so e-commerce initiative we have taken during last 1 year, which got a very good success in during the COVID period. Along with our own retail, we are now also focusing on the small retailers through our own B2B app. Also, our own logistics systems we are now creating in the Western India. Skill development is also equally focused since last 2 years. Along with the Tata Strive, Sahyadri has initiated this activity, skill development activity for the rural community surrounding our campus, where we are focusing on the different aspects on the production side and also on the post-service and marketing side. So whatever the new jobs are coming or created in the new value chains, we can offer to our own rural youth. On that line, Sahyadri is focusing in this skill development activity. Technology is definitely a main game changer in coming years in all sectors. In agriculture, I think the main change will happen because of the technology instead of the government policies. Sahyadri understand this part very well from the beginning. So along with the Digital Impact Square, which is a digital innovation center in Nashik, we try to create different solutions for the agriculture community on different aspects like some mobility related solutions, climate prediction issues, some post-harvest related solutions, and also the traceability through blockchain. So all these initiatives we took in last 4 years along with the different startups, and this is going very well to create the bigger impact on the coming years. Along with me, Gaurav Somushi is also here. He is actually going to talk about blockchain, so I will not spend more time on that part. So overall objective, which we are now focusing, that the integrated rural development through transforming the agriculture economy, and also along with the other resources which we can create in the rural area with proper skills. We are now also focusing on the Dr. Abdul Kalam's Pura concept, how we can that implement in the surrounding area. So 14 villages cluster. Now we are focusing on the complete holistic rural development aspect with the core agriculture development along with other community challenges from health, education, or sanitation and connectivity issues. So through this approach now, Sahyadri model is actually we are now trying to replicating other part of the Nashik and also other part of the Maharashtra. I think overall this journey which we did in last 10 years taught a lot of lessons that if farmers try to create their own ecosystem with a clear vision and also with the clear understanding of the ecosystem challenges. Definitely it is possible to create our own ecosystem and also with our own effort. I think now this approach is now replicated throughout the country with the farmer producer models support by the government also. I think in coming years, this is actually the main game changer in the agriculture sector. Organize farmer structures, whether in the form of a farmer producer company or any other format, with the right interventions and also right utilization of the technology. This is the need of the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vilasji. Basically, there are some questions for you, but what we are thinking, we will take 15 or 20 minutes from Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi, and we shall do the question answer session for you and Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi, because here in question and answer we are going to see the problems related with FPO and the introduction of advanced technology or use of advanced technology in agriculture. So I request Vilasji to please be on the board for next 30 minutes. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
so here, hello.
Yes, sir.
Now, I request Vilasji to please, your screen is there still.
No, I'll be using his screen only to continue.
Okay. So here, now we have with us Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi. He is CEO and co-founder of Emertech Innovations Private Limited. He is a graduate from IIM Lucknow and a computer science engineer. He has worked in blockchain, and he has worked with Chhattisgarh government for applying blockchain in e-governance in various projects of Chhattisgarh government for application of blockchain. Then he has been awarded as future leader by British Council. He has made his presentation in UK Parliament. He has taken workshop for IS officers also on blockchain, basically how to use blockchain for e-governance. He is working as a co-editor for a magazine, Future Leader, for a magazine which is an international magazine, and right now he is working with Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company in this concept of seed to plate. He's using blockchain with this marketing of agriculture produce. So I request Shri Gaurav Somvanshi ji to please start his conversation.
Thank you, sir. And thank you also Chaitanya Nadkarni sir for this wonderful opportunity, as well as Mayank Gandhi sir for a wonderful talk. So without further ado, what I'd love to do is first try to just explain the concept of blockchain in a very simple manner with the help of a metaphor, because there's no point in talking about a use case if you're not really clear about what it actually does and what it actually doesn't do. If we are clear about that, then the sky is the limit when it comes to the applications. So before talking about anything, it's always important to talk about the laws of technology. And only the first law is the one, first and the last are the ones which is very important here. So these are Melvin Kranzberg's laws of technology. It's not just IT technology, it is also applicable to everything, whether it is a tractor or a plow or blockchain or artificial intelligence. So the first part is that technology is neither good nor bad. We have written essays on that in our school, but at the same time, it is not neutral. What does it mean? It always means that technology is going to take some sides. Technology might going to just be used to make the powerful more powerful. The technology just make the rich more richer, which has sadly been the trend if you look at the overall structure. But then with the advent of internet, especially with the advent of blockchain now, it is hoped that the balance will be tilted back in a much fairer manner. So one must understand the impact of technology in that aspect as well. And just look at the last law. It says that the technology is a very human activity, and so is the history of technology. And that's how we are going to look at blockchain within 2 minutes, trying to understand it with the historical example. So why we are going to do this? It's because unlike any other technology in computer science, which has its origin around 200 years ago with Boolean algebra, blockchain does not have anything connection with computer science. It is solely related with accounting, surprisingly. So first we will just clear the misconception before going to the concept. Whenever you hear the word blockchain or Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, how you should split your mind. So imagine that there is an idea of a phone network. We are going to compare the phone network with the blockchain right now. So imagine on one hand, there's an idea of a phone network, and imagine similarly on a similar plane, with a similar level of abstraction, there is an idea of the blockchain. Simple. So what do we mean when I say the idea of a phone network? In an idea of a phone network, there are mobile towers, smartphones, people working in big mobile network companies and everything. It's just an abstraction, an idea of a phone network. Similarly, there's an idea of a blockchain. Now, when we talk about a specific phone network, let's talk about, let's say, Jio. Now we are going to talk about a specific phone network with specific infrastructure, location, service provider areas, and so on. Similarly, now we can also drill down, and then we will be talking about a particular type of blockchain, whether it is a public or private, whether it is going to be used for cryptocurrency, and so on. So now what we have done is that we have specified the abstraction into something much more concrete, just by customizing the way we want our blockchain to be. Now that I have the technology in place, now let's say I have a geophone network. Now let's say on the other hand, I have a blockchain network. Now I'm going to use that. Using is a very human activity. So now I'm going to use my Jio SIM card for, I could use it for many different purposes. I could use it for WhatsApp, for mobile data, for SMS, for calling someone, Zoom calls and everything. But let's say I'm going to choose only one specific use of that. I'm only going to use it to call someone. So similarly, on the other side, I'm going to use that specific technology for a specific purpose in the real world, which is Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Because whatever they say about Bitcoin being a very decentralized digital system, tomorrow, if all of us decide that Bitcoin is representing the amount of, let's say, gold in the world, then it will be BitGold. In fact, there was a startup called BitGold earlier as well, without changing the technology much of it. So there's an idea of it, then there is a specific customization of it, and then there is a use. Another way to understand Bitcoin blockchain is, if Facebook is like Bitcoin, then blockchain is like the internet. Yes, understanding Facebook will make you understand a lot of concepts of the internet, but it is not the whole and soul of it. It is just an island within an ocean. Now that is the first, we have just cleared the history of accounting. Why does accounting matter to us? It's because everything is connected with accounting when it comes to blockchain. Accounting not in the sense of only financial record, but just a way to record anything. So what was the first ever known example of recording? It goes to ancient back to Sumerians, where all they used to do was just write on a stone tablet that so and so amount of livestock is owned by so and so amount of people, and that's it. A single entry accounting is similar to the grocery list that your parents give you whenever you are going to buy groceries. A single entry accounting, if you think this is a very simple concept, please know that all the wars, all the battles, all the castles, all the wonders of the world were built using a single entry accounting. Okay, what are the problems with single entry accounting? The problem is, first of all, if the person who is given the responsibility to make the entries, if he does mistake or mischief, all of your labor, all of your recording is gone. The second is, it's not at all very good for trade. If two different parties across different regions want to communicate with each other over a complex trade, and you have a different way to record your data, I have a different way to record my assets, the trade is going to be very complex. So that's why this person is very important. The person you see on the screen right now, even I did not know his name until 3 years ago, but he is Father Luca Pacioli. Although some people call him a Renaissance man, similarly to Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, and others. But according to some people, he is the reason why Renaissance could exist. What was the Renaissance? Renaissance was the literary, scientific, artistic, and cultural explosion that occurred within the medieval Europe. But in order for that to occur, all of those things can happen only when there is luxury, when you have free time, when you are not worried about your food, when you are not worried about your next harvest. So who brought the luxury? It is credited that this person brought in the luxury. He also taught mathematics to Leonardo da Vinci. So what he did was that he said that we are going to record all of our data within a simple system where every entry will have a corresponding counter entry into the others books. So a credit will always have a debit. This is the same system that we have been using since the past 500 years, give or take few more changes. Now, double entry bookkeeping is absolutely beautiful because it facilitates trade in a much faster manner. It makes everything life easier for everyone. Now, the double entry bookkeeping accounting, what could be the faults with it? The fault with it is that, let's say I am doing a debit, you are not doing a credit. If I am lying or you are speaking the truth or vice versa, who will solve it? In Italy, this question was solved by the Jewish community, and they used to solve it by sitting on benches. Benches in Italian language means banca. Banca is literally, and then these benches, people sitting on the benches started getting rooms, rooms became buildings, and these benches, banca, became banks. That is the origin of the word. So the misgivings within the double entry system gave rise to the more power of the central institution. Now that the banks became larger, then in 18th century something wonderful happened where the national government integrated with the bank, saying in UK, saying that this is the national bank with the power to even print money. Okay, so then the government became powerful. Then who will solve again the problems? Then the courts. So the rise of the central institutions like banking, government, and courts is directly associated with the double entry accounting. Now then there were people, especially in the 1990s, who said that if the central institutions also start meddling into the private activities that people do online digitally, then things will simply not go well. So for example, the problems that associated with the double entry accounting, or rather than to be more precise, with the central authorities, is that they have a very bad track record of wasting people's money. It leads to depression, and the transaction fees can be really huge, and you yourself don't have any control over what's happening with your money. So what happened was, people said, can we have an alternate system to that? What can be something better than double entry accounting, which will bypass the need of having a third party? That's when in 1989 a person said that if we do all of our recordings into a certain kind of platform, in which no matter which entry you put into will not be erased, will not be deleted, then that platform itself globally could become a ledger of not just account, but it can also replace cash. At that time, neither the cryptography nor the online methods were developed. Hence, it took 19 years before the idea presented itself could be implemented. So the first name of blockchain is not actually blockchain, it is triple entry bookkeeping. Now, the power of a triple entry bookkeeping is that if there is a platform itself which will ensure that nothing itself gets deleted or edited or erased or tampered with once it is there, then this gives you a whole lot of power. Because earlier in double entry bookkeeping, if you and me don't agree, if one of us makes a mistake or mischief, we have to go someplace else. In over here, we don't have to go any place else. It is mathematics which is the answer. So how does this exactly look? Is basically the data structure is structured in such a way that whatever data we feed into it is broken down into blocks, and those blocks after a certain point in time will be chronologically linked with each other in such a manner that hacking becomes impossible, especially regarding the data. So this, we don't need to understand how it works, we need to understand what are the properties offered by it. Using these properties, Bitcoin was created, and since the past 12 years it is still standing, and right now it is at the highest price, bypassing all of the central institutions, banking, borders, states, governments, everything. Now what happened was, people felt, what else can we do with it? So in 2015, a lady named Liana came forth, and she said that, what if I use blockchain to fight the blood diamond industry? I'm sure many of you would be aware with the blood diamond industry, that these are the diamonds which are illegally mined, sourced with extreme and gross violation of human rights, especially in Africa, and then they are marketed as being ethically sourced. There's no way for the consumer to know whether someone is lying or not. So she said that every point in the diamond value chain, we are going to do data entry, and we are going to just put everything on a blockchain. So the consumer, at the end of scanning the diamond, the QR code present on the diamond, they can see the entire history, all the specifications of the diamond, what happened with it, in which country the cutting happened, in which country it was marketed and sold, everything is given. And the best part about this data is you can be assured that the data was not tampered with because it came with blockchain. Now the question is, why only diamond and why not anything else? And that's where Sahyadri comes into the picture. So around a year and a half ago, I was sitting in the same office just interacting with Mr. Vilas Shinde sir, who's just sitting beside me. And over there, I got to know from him that the potential of using it in agriculture is much, much larger, which we'll try to look into. So just try to understand how are we going to use it in agriculture. What you see in front of you is the receipt of a real farmer who went to sell onions, but instead of getting any money, he was asked to pay money. Why does this happen is because of the problems illustrated earlier by Mr. Vilas Shinde sir. And the receipt shown earlier is not an exception, it's rather the norm, because the model of a small land holding farmer being independent and being profitable is simply not possible, as I have learned over my association with Mr. Vilas Shinde sir over the past year and a half. Now, how do we actually go about solving it? So what are the problems of the farmers primarily? The first is, of course, exploitation by middlemen. There is no market linkage and no facility for credit and insurance. But something special is happening, as we just saw, that farmer producer companies, the largest one that I'm sitting here right now, are being formed. What happens when you form farmer producer companies or any farmer collective, as Vilas Shinde sir said, is that now you can invest in common storage and processing. Now, this point was also made by Mayank Gandhi sir earlier in his talk, that what we need to do is support the farmer with technology on the back end first. Now, because there could be a much more better negotiating power, as we just saw, as well as protection for market fluctuation. But again, within the farmer collective model itself, why are there only names like Sahyadri only which come to your mind and not hundreds of others? Is because there are also some problems associated within the farmer collective, which Mr. Vilas Shinde has actively sought to solve. The first is, of course, the problem of spillage and spoilage, which can be minimized only if you're tracking everything as well as maintaining the infrastructure perfectly. The second is missing farmer transparency, because over the past 5 years, there has been a rising complaint that instead of getting exploited by the middlemen, now there is a fraud happening through the management of the farmer collective themselves, who are selling at a different rate and telling a different rate to the farmers. In order to stop that, what we need to do is give complete visibility of the individual produce to the farmers as the produce is traveling from their field till the consumers. And of course, just because you have a collective will not ensure everything. You need to have an integrated value chain which connects directly with the consumers. Why? And so this is something which has already been done through an AgroTrust platform built in collaboration with Sahyadri Farms. So the purpose of AgroTrust is basically to connect the farmers with the consumers. But since this can't happen directly, it happens by onboarding farmer collectives as well as any endpoint. It could be a retail store or it could be a B2C, B2B app. But will this solve anything? Of course not, because you have to solve the fill in the blank question first. The fill in the blanks of the value chain means onboarding every other point within the value chain onto the platform. Because if you do this, if this initial one-time effort could be done, then you can provide a lot of other services. You can have blockchain-backed certificates. You can use the data later for credit and insurance, as well as have inter-farmer collective e-marketplace platform. So what do we mean by that? Now, this idea was first said by Mr. Varghese Kurian, that the farmer collectives must not work in competition, but rather in collaboration with each other. And upon that concept, Mr. Vilas Shinde has been working actively, which is, so let's say there's a farmer collective. A farmer collective, as we saw, is made up of different types of crop farmers based upon some geographical constraint. So let's say a farmer collective has 500 grape farmers, 1,000 onion farmers, 2,000 mango farmers, and so on. Go 100 kilometers in any direction in Maharashtra, which has 2,000 farmer collectives, and you will come across another farmer collective. Let's say it also has a similar overlap of same crop farmers with different numbers, of course. And let's say you again extend this idea. Now the idea is, can we connect the same crop farmers across different collectives on a single blockchain in order to bring about transparent and trustworthy collaboration? So what we will have is a grape chain, an onion chain, a mango chain. Why are we going to do this? Is because this idea of forming a mega collective of farmer collectives is necessary if we want the farmer collectives to be the heart of the entire integrated value chain. Because if they are not at the heart of the integrated value chain, and the traditional model of everything being controlled by the retailers and wholesalers goes on unabated without any hindrances, then we are not changing anything. So this is the crucial change that we must be talking about. And so what do we do? So everything that happens here at Sahyadri, everything that is sold at Sahyadri, the QR code is printed on it. In fact, we crossed the threshold of 1 million QR codes already. All these QR codes, what is the information that is encoded within them? The information encoded within the QR code is of 3 types. You get to know the details of the food, the farmer, and most importantly, know what is happening with your money. At the same time, so in the example in front of you, we are showing that out of the 100 rupees, 41 rupees is going to the actual farmer. On the right hand side, we are also actually also comparing the APMC rates. So forget about what to do about with APMC or not. We should be aiming much higher, which is a much higher income for the farmers, which enables a life of dignity and not just bare survival. The project that we did with Sahyadri, of course, it made news because Sahyadri farmers became the first time where blockchain was being used in such a scale, in such a manner. And if you look at blockchain on a larger scale for rural transformation, then blockchain is being used for transparent money transfers, transparent donations, blockchain for also farmer loans with a beautiful use case of Hara in Indonesia. Blockchain is also being used for farmer for ethic to confirm whether your raw materials, it could be anything from cotton till bamboo till anything, whether it is ethically sourced or not, as well as transparency in any NGO operation. So this is where blockchain has already proven its worth. And with that, I'd just like to open up ourselves to questions. Ashish sir.
Thank you, Gaurav and Vilas ji. Thanks a lot. We are more interested in asking so many questions to you, but there is some time constraint. So I will start with some important question, and if some questions remain, so we will try to get the answer from email. So the first question is to Vilas ji. It's a question that so many FPOs had started with the objective to just to get the subsidy, and due to that, only few farmers are active and rest are passive participants. So how do you overcome such attitudinal issues with farmers?
I think everybody who is working his domain, they need to understand why farmer producer company concept is required. This is not actually a government scheme or government's any political people or any bureaucrats his thought. Actually, producer company as a farmer community, they need to understand that this is their own need. So for that, they should take initiative.
Yeah.
If you are farming farmer producer company just as a part of any government scheme to get some subsidy or some incentive, I think that is a wrong approach. If you want to make any sustainable change.
But practically on real field, we see so many FPOs had started. Some of them were started by NGOs also, and they are not working in the manner they wish to be.
See, the three things are required if you want to make some successful enterprise. One is intention. Well, farmer producer company is a social enterprise. So while forming the producer company, what is your intention? That is a very crucial factor. As a director, as a promoter, as a senior management staff, your intention to work towards a farmer, towards the community, I think that is a very crucial factor. Whether you are working with just a small intention or just with your some personal agenda to get some subsidy or to get some monetary benefit, I think that will not work out. You should have that bigger vision along with intention. I think vision is also equally important. Why you are forming the APC, that should be clear to in your mind. And also the capability. So capability in terms of management scale, in terms of the some technical skills, and also I think financial capability, that is also equally important. But that can be created. But intention and vision, I think that we could not create with giving some advice or just getting the part of any scheme. So that come by your own thought. I think your intention, your own thought is most important, and that is missing, I think. Most of the people who are coming in this area, they are just having their own agendas, and they are just getting they are trying to get some benefits from the government scheme. I think with this small thought, nothing will happen. We need a bigger vision with the clear intention.
Yeah, definitely. Bigger like you. Another question is there from Mr. P.K. Datta. He is saying that FPOs are successful with monocropping only, or if there is a diverse crop pattern like so many crops are there. So is it possible if the FPO will be successful in multi-crop patterns also, like in the same field, if different types of crops are taking place? So is it possible that multi-crop pattern is also may also make successful FPO?
I think it depends upon the crop or in the commodity where in which you are working. If you see the FPC is not your target. Your target is to create a valuation, integrated valuation. I think that is a target, or that is a actually need of a farmer community. And FPC is the medium to bring that target in reality. So it depends upon the community. The communities which are yearly available. In that, if it is only one community specific valuation, that will be always better. Like in milk, what Amul has done, Amul they just focus on milk, and in milk they have created the large enterprise which is owned by farmer. It's almost 40,000 crore business. Amul is doing only milk. They are not doing other commodity. Now, as I know, they are also planning to put their focusing other commodities. But in last 6 years, they just focus on the milk. But milk is a year-round commodity, so that's why in one single focus commodity, it's possible to create one successful valuation. But in other categories like horticulture sector or in other crops which are seasonal, so it's very difficult to create a one crop ecosystem. So there then the multiple crops, maybe 2-3 crops, which through that year-round operation, year-round feasibility at post-service marketing is possible. Also farmers are getting multiple options. Sahyadri focus on horticulture with the integrated crops, integration of different crops at one place. So it depends upon your situation, your location, your commodity. Accordingly, we should take the path.
Another question is there from Mr. Atul Yadav. What you can suggest to small farmers having less land and to improve their income? What learnings they can take from Sahyadri farm?
For all small and marginal farmers who are actually almost 90% of our oral agriculture community, there are only two ways. Either you come together, you create your strength, you create your negotiation power, and through that you solve your own problems, and you create your own ecosystem. Or another way is just let the farming. That will be also a better option, because if you are just continuing with your current situation, I think exploitation or getting exploited by different people, that will just continue. So just select two routes, either go on the collectivization or just let the farming. That is nothing from the Sahyadri, because what we did in grapes, we have more than 1,200 farmers, and all these farmers, they are having the average land holding of 3.5 acre. Few farmers are having just 1 acre land. But with this collectivization, we could compete in the global market, where we are now competing with the 1,000 acre South African farmer or 2,000 acre Californian farmers. So we can, though we are small farmers, but if we create the proper ecosystem, if we took the right approach, if we took the entrepreneur's mindset, we could fighting any competition. So that is proven by Sahyadri, and this model is actually, I think now is applicable to any part of the country, to any crop, to any situation. Because as a farmer, our situation is almost similar everywhere in all the states.
Yeah, I remember here one point was what you said about 1,000 acres and 2,000 acres farmers from Africa. In India, just 3 years before, there was increase in the rate of arhar dal. And at that time, tons of dal was imported from Mozambique. Right. I just remember it. So to be competent at global level, this FPC is the need of the time. It's really needed. Next question is for Mr. Gaurav. It is asked by Nikhil. Is it feasible to have blockchain-based agri marketplace in India? Blockchain-based agri marketplace in India?
Yes. So in one of the slides that I just showed, we already talked about the e-marketplace platform. Now it's up to us whether the ENAM would be happy to integrate in such a manner that they are also ready to transparently share their data, or we can just do it on our own and build it directly with a B2B. But an agri marketplace with the capability for two different farmer collectives to talk with each other and just to at least utilize each other's processings or surplus orders or even surplus demand, though if that kind of limited and immediate collaboration is possible right away.
There is another question from Mr. Sachin Borse. In India, there are a lot of private companies who are producing the same product that you are producing at a cheaper price. They are giving at cheaper price than you. So how you can convince your consumer this is the best product, or how do you look towards competition with private companies? So here one small information that I have about Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company and blockchain used, I will just add it. I think Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company is now giving QR code on their product, and from scanning that QR code, the consumer can see from who has produced it, the geographical location, what were the agriculture practices done. So this is a definitely cutting edge to the other production houses. Your response, Gaurav? Yeah, Vilasji, please.
I think price is definitely an important factor.
Yeah.
Any consumer, whether it is an Indian consumer or any global consumer, is always concerned about the price. Though he is saying that he wants a base price, base quality, premium quality. But when there is a question about the price, he is expecting that price should be the minimum, or he should get the best option or best offer. So here actually the traceability systems role came in picture, that whatever the things are happening in, from the production raw material to the whether it is a value added products, any further value addition, and coming to the consumer, in between these there are a lot of cost, which this cost is actually a minimum for any producer, that cost has to spend. So as a consumer, if we got the clear understanding about the overall transaction happening from the raw material to the finished product, and also he got the clear fair picture about the overall transaction, definitely he will ready to pay the fair price. So as a consumer, he is not expecting that he should get the best product at the cheapest price, at the fair price. Fair price is definitely is the expectation from any consumer. So the right communication with the consumer, I think that is a important factor. So with as you said, with the QR code, with the proper digitalized system, we can give the complete picture of the value chain. With that, definitely it is easy to convince consumer about the overall financial transaction, that whatever the price we are offering is the best price in the overall competition. Sahyadri also tried to focus on overall efficiency of the value chain, that how we can offer the best price. As I said, to the domestic customer also, we are offering the same quality, premium quality, which we are offering to the European customer, but with the best price, which is competitive with any street vendor or any other competitor in the market. So this is possible with the creating the efficiency throughout the value chain.
Okay, this is the last question to Gaurav, as we are running out of time. This question is, which type of this blockchain used for FPO is a open source technology, or this is one question from Nikhil, and another question is from Tushar Falke. How techies can join hands with you to contribute in blockchain?
Okay, so there are multiple blockchain platforms that could solve the purpose that we are solving, which is, when you talk about open source, it means it is readily available, which is, for example, Hyperledger, Ethereum, multi-chain. We are using multi-chain. Now the next question is open source in what sense? Whether the customizations that you are building within that blockchain, are those going to be open source? Because the moment you make it open source, then it is also mostly permissionless and anyone can join in. But for the specific purposes of having a collective of collectives, the multi-chain that we are using, it is a permissioned blockchain, going ahead in future, let's say after 5 years, when there are multiple blockchains out there, all talking with each other, over there, we can talk about a much more open source system. Right now, we are using a private blockchain, but that multi-chain anyone can use and customize for your own purposes. That original code is open source. And the second question was, I think, could you?
How techies can join with you to work in blockchain for APOs?
Okay. My email ID is like gaurav@emertech.io, GAURAV @emertech.io, or you can also gaurav.somanshi@sahyadrifarms.com.
Okay.
You can directly reach out.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'm really thankful to all my three panelists today, and it was really a very successful webinar that we conducted today. And the takeaway for today's seminar, the webinar, I think you should dream big. Whatever work is done by Mayank ji, and whatever work is being done by Vilas ji and done by Gaurav. So dreams are really big, though you have started with a small thing, but now whatever things you are doing, that's a really big one. And second important thing, the technology is nowadays we are using technology for farming sector. Earlier also the technologies was there in farming, but it was mostly for tractors, for the big components. But right now, blockchain or other technologies are being used for benefit of the farmers. So that is most important thing, which is we should see. So we are Star Forum is really thankful to all the three panelists. You have taken such a great initiative, and we would definitely like to be connected with you in future also. We will be connected with you in future. Right now, I think we are connected with you. And as I said earlier, this is basically a networking platform, and it is a platform of people, platform of organization who wish to do some work for rural development. So I would also request you to please be in touch with us. And here we are coming to the conclusion now. I just wish to make one simple announcement for the viewers who are new. Stars Forum is a networking platform, and there is no registration fee. We just wish to bring good people together so that every one of them should be benefited by each other's skills, each other's strengths, or each other experience. So I request you all to please be affiliated with Star Forum. You can connect with us on our website, that is Stars Forum. That website will be shown right now. So so I request you all to please be affiliated to Stars Forum. And second important request is there. Tomorrow is the last day of this 11th annual conference. So I request you, and tomorrow's topic is also very interesting one, that is the Fab Lab. So I request you to please join correctly at 5:55, not at 6 p.m. but at 5:55 p.m. and be in touch. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Ashish ji.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.